Tonight on First Tuesday, a family's desperate search for their loved one in the heart of a dirty war. And the colonel who holds the key inside Peru's state of terror. Good evening. In South America, Argentina and Chile have headed the league of those who abuse and murder their own citizens. But that dishonourable distinction may soon be claimed by Peru and its army. Though democracy was restored there in 1980, a civil war continues, and the military retains extraordinary power over people's lives, power which is widely abused. Atrocities aren't solely the work of the army. Peru's Shining Path terrorists actually behead and crucify their civilian victims. But in the fight against this brutal enemy, it's the army which can be proved to be responsible for the indiscriminate rounding up of civilians, for the thousands of disappearances, that particularly South American phenomenon whereby people vanish without trace. There's no one to accept blame, not even a dead body to mourn, nothing left for family and community but endless uncertainty and fear. On tonight's evidence, the army, and only the army, knows why Angel is missing.
Election day in the high Andes of Peru. The hooded gunmen are not terrorists, but the regular army ensuring a good turnout at the polls. Peru is in the 10th year of a dirty war in which at least 25,000 have been killed in the conflict between the army and the Maoist terrorists of the Shining Path, and the government has turned most of the country into military emergency zones. Peru's citizens are caught between the atrocities of the Shining Path and of its supposed protectors, the military. For the army has resorted to the weapon of disappearance against its own people. Some 10,000 Peruvians have been disappeared. The disappearances, say the United Nations, amount to a human rights abuse unequaled in the world today. Past attempts at organized protest by the families of the disappeared have now been crushed. Belza is 12 years old. 3 weeks ago, her father was disappeared. Belza knows that unless he can be released soon, she will never see him again. He's one of thousands of innocent people caught up in Peru's dirty war. But Belza's father is no ordinary peasant. Angel Escobar is secretary of the Human Rights Commission in the Andean town of Huancavelica. He was seized from his home, but managed to alert witnesses to his disappearance as he was being taken across this bridge towards the military headquarters of Huancavelica. The army denies any involvement. On that day, his family were away. His wife, Felicita.
On the Tuesday, they came looking for him, first of all at 4 in the afternoon. They said they had a letter of authority. 5 of them were searching for him. The last person to see him was Señor Rufino Castellano. That was at about 7 or 8 p.m. They were marching him through the town centre, where there were a lot of people about. Señor Castellano said they were taking him across the bridge. Angel shouted out to him, "They're taking me away, they're taking me away." Señor Castellano said nothing. He didn't believe that they would disappear him. But the next day, they found out that Angel had been taken. Since I was away, I didn't know anything about it. We cannot believe they were ordinary criminals, and they couldn't be Shining Path either. They had to be army, because they took him openly through the streets at a time when everyone saw them. Soldiers are patrolling all the time. Any trouble, and they're right on top of it. How could criminals have done it? It's not possible. They were army. They couldn't be anyone else.
When Felicita and Belza returned and were told of his capture, they went to the investigating police, but Felicita was too frightened to go in.
They were acting suspiciously. I didn't go in. Belza knocked on the door and they watched her closely. Belza said, "Stay there, Mama," so I didn't go any nearer. When she came back, they were watching her through a crack in the door. It was suspicious. She said to me, "They've got Papa up there." I think he will be returned. I don't think he will be disappeared. Because he's done nothing wrong, nothing. He hasn't robbed anyone. He's not a criminal. He worked for the Commission for Human Rights. That's why I don't think he will be disappeared. I think he will return, alive and well. That's what I think.
The hills around Huancavelica are subject to attack by the Shining Path, but the town of 40,000 people is in the grip of the military. This year, the army has stepped up the tactic of disappearance, creating a climate of terror in the town. Angel was in the way. Together with Belza, Angel compiled a list of 30 disappearances by the army in 3 months. The day before he was due to go to Lima to publish it, he too was disappeared. In his office, a secret meeting is held on his behalf. These people are risking their lives to speak out. They are campesino leaders, journalists, and trades unionists. They are all targets. Angel is the first human rights leader to have been disappeared here.
Angel Escobar is a well-known campesino leader, looking after our interests. That's why they've disappeared him. In our country, to be a leader like him is to be an enemy of the military and the government. They're persecuted and disappeared.
For some time, he has been advising the communities about our problems, but he has had nothing to do with terrorism. He would only use legal means within Peruvian law. I think that because of the work he was doing, they have taken revenge.
Many of the disappeared have been campesino leaders and professional people who protest on behalf of the people of Huancavelica. We are living in a civil war here in Huancavelica.
There is no place of refuge for us. Nobody's life is safe. Criminals take advantage of the situation, claiming that they are terrorists when they carry out robberies. And there may be those who are the real shining path, who also cause terror in the town. But the most feared, the most notorious of all, are the military forces, the terrorism of the state.
We think not only about Angel, but about all the disappeared. We must believe they are alive. We must demand that he is given back as he was taken away, alive. And we must support his wife.
The authorities deny responsibility for Angel's disappearance. So in desperation, Felicita turns to Angel's human rights contacts in the capital, Lima. She also wants protection. Now Felicita is in danger.
The army don't like witnesses, so I must ask for protection. They ignore us in Huancavelica. There is no justice. They treat us like animals. They have no respect for us. I have to get protection from somewhere else, not from Huancavelica, for myself, for my children, and for the witnesses. Anything could happen. Some people are very bad here.
Until recently, the highest official in Peru to whom Felicita could have turned was Carlos Escobar Pineda. For 18 months, he headed a government commission on disappearances. But today, Carlos and his family are in San Francisco, California, living in a secret location. He's proving an embarrassment to the Peruvian government, because he's applying for political asylum. Carlos was forced to flee Peru after the army had twice tried to kill him, because he did his job too well.
We were seeing military men appointed by the government killing innocent people, detaining people without charging them, and disappearing them. We conducted 572 investigations, and these 572 investigations included around 900 disappeared.
The government had picked the wrong man for a cover-up, for Carlos made the disappeared reappear. He dug up the mass graves from army atrocities. He exposed new crimes, named those responsible, and won publicity for his findings.
Solamente se encontró algunos fragmentos de hueso, cabellos humanos,
The government ignored his evidence. Carlos was sacked, his report buried. But during his time in office, Carlos achieved some success. He was able to reappear nearly 200, alive.
All the people we found alive showed evidence of being tortured. And they all confirmed that soldiers had tortured them. Soldiers arrest people, and in order to extract confessions from them, they beat and torture them. When the torture goes too far, if they break an arm or worse, they cannot release them, and so they kill them. That is why there are so many disappeared.
I think Angel is being treated badly at the barracks. They say they have vaults there, 75 meters deep underground. People say they keep them down there. Some women have told me that they treat them like chickens. They don't give them buckets, they throw them their food. Sometimes they kill the prisoners. And as there's a river down there, the river Pedro Hus, they are thrown in there when they die. They do it at night. They take them there to beat them up. They throw them in the water, all at night. They may have done this to him, or he may still be alive. At the moment, I don't know. He's at the barracks because that is where they were taking him.
A rare survivor of the army's treatment of the disappeared is Roberto Vivanco. In September 1989, he was captured and tortured. His teeth were kicked out. He was hung up by his arms.
Afterwards, my hands were limp, and they ordered me to be taken to the tower. There, I asked myself a lot of questions. Why is this happening? Why are they torturing me? Perhaps I had been denounced by somebody. I could not sleep all night for the pain. It was unbearable. But the next day, at around 5 in the morning, 3 soldiers came to drag me out again. They threw me down the stairs. I fell down. Because my arms were dead, I didn't have the strength to hold on to the staircase. They blindfolded me again with a handkerchief and took me back there, where they tied my arms and feet behind me and hung me up again. Then they took a heated wire and burnt me all over my body with it, sticking it into me. One of them grabbed me and stuck the wire into my anus.
Roberto survived 47 days of torture before he escaped into hiding in Lima. The camp where he was held is in the south of the country in the village of Capaya. Here, he says, people were brought from all over Peru to be tortured and killed. The army claims Capaya is a barracks with no prisoners. Yet Vivanco's revelations are the first evidence of the death camp, because he's the only man known to have got out alive. Vivanco recalls how the disappeared were disposed of.
Some days they took me out without a blindfold, and I saw a kind of guillotine with a channel leading to a pig pen. And you know when pigs fight over a piece of meat, they squeal. They were white pigs. I could just see their backs over the wall. Well, people had been chopped up, and the pieces went along the channel, which was made of rubber, to feed the pigs. I saw this twice, on 2 mornings.
Vivanco's testimony of the fate of some of Peru's 10,000 disappeared has been kept secret until he's safely out of the country. In Lima, no politician will help Felicita. There's an election on. At the Palace of Justice, the Attorney General urged Felicita to return home.
We had a meeting with them. We went with the Human Rights Commission, and he phoned the chief prosecutor of Huancavelica. He's Humberto Parejas Raimundo.
I am pleased because they might do something to rescue my father.
The only hope for Angel seems to be for the prosecutor in Huancavelica to reopen the case. It's 5 weeks since Angel Escobar went missing. With time running out to rescue him, Felicita seeks help from members of Lima's human rights group.
Felicita, we want these days in Lima to give you great strength, because when you return to Huancavelica, you have to demand that Angel reappears alive. You must go with your children and be afraid of nobody, because what you are demanding is your right. It is the right to life. Are you prepared to do this?
Yes, I am, because I don't want to see my children abandoned. I will do everything I can, but a mother who has to cope on her own is not the same. And she cannot give her children the affection that a father can. I will do everything I can to rescue their father.
We know that Belsa, your daughter, has been Angel's closest assistant. She knows a lot that even we don't know. She was the one who phoned us when her father disappeared. She started the search, using his diary, the telephone numbers. She knows her father's work well. It's important that Belsa takes part in the search with you. Will you help your mama?
I would like to help because we miss Papa very much. It's more than a month since he disappeared, and he was the only support of the household. Now he's gone, we are very sad. The army has taken him away. I will help Mama in the search for my father.
By returning to Huancavelica to demand Angel's reappearance, Felicita knows she is risking her life. The husband of this woman, Sonia Munoz, was disappeared by the army. She herself was then arrested, tortured, and driven out to a bare hillside.
They led me away from the truck and said, "Crouch down," and I obediently crouched down, thinking that they were going to leave me there. They told me to take off the blanket. I was half naked. The torture had left me in a terrible state. What clothes I had on were torn to shreds. They made me kneel down and held my head like this. And then they shot me here. I thought I'd been hit twice with the butt of a machine gun. I didn't realize they were bullets. They shot me twice, there. Then one of them felt my pulse and said, "She's still alive." So they turned me over and fired here. I still have the mark. I just held my breath. He grabbed me again and said, "She's dead." Because it was so cold, my body temperature had dropped completely. "She's dead," he said. To stop people from discovering what had happened, they threw soil over me and covered all their tracks, so that no traces of the military remained.
Sonia Munoz had a miraculous escape and has lived in hiding ever since. On the streets, there is no news of Angel. Even to inquire about him is dangerous. Felicita knows she will be under surveillance. Before Felicita challenges the authorities, she visits her neighbor, Victoria Mesa, to check whether she is safe. For Victoria is a witness to Angel's disappearance. This is what she saw.
Yes, some people came here to the house. 2 came through there. 3 came in through the back door. They demanded to see Señor Angel, asking if he lived here. I told them that down there is his house. Afterwards, they came back here. And I said, "Why are you looking for him?" They told me that they had a letter of authority from Juan Cayo. That's what he said.
Where were the people?
Over there, standing by that rock.
Suddenly, a breakthrough. Victoria reveals vital new evidence that could force the authorities to reopen the case.
And those men, have you seen them again?
Yes, they were walking with soldiers. They were walking together.
You recognize him as a soldier? You don't accuse anyone else? He is a soldier?
Yes, he is a soldier. He is a soldier.
Victoria has already testified, but now she has new evidence. She has seen again one of the men who had come asking for Angel, this time in the company of soldiers in uniform. Armed with the new evidence, Felicita takes Victoria with her to confront the public prosecutor.
We don't know who they are. They are not soldiers. It is said they are civilians.
But now it's known that one was a soldier because he's been seen walking here in the town, Doctor.
When was he seen?
He was seen around March the 12th.
Who told you that?
There is a witness. But witnesses are afraid that when they testify, they will be disappeared. Even those who are prepared to testify don't want to do it publicly. What will happen to us and our children? Does this person need to testify in public?
Of course, how else?
I have brought her to you.
What did those people look like?
They were mean-looking. They had scarred faces and curly hair.
Mean-looking, scarred faces, curly hair. Did they look like soldiers?
They had trainers and trousers.
They were not dressed in army uniform.
That's right. I asked them, why are you looking for him? One of them said, we have a letter of authority from Huancayo. That's why we are looking for him.
How many people were there, approximately?
5 people.
5 people.
Yes, 5. And one of them has been walking here, going in and out of the barracks.
Who is he?
I don't know him. I just saw him walking with soldiers.
That man, that soldier who came to get my husband at my house, that man has been recognized here, walking by the barracks. This is what she's telling you. He was walking here. That's what she's saying.
Despite the interrogation, the prosecutor takes no note of Victoria's new testimony. What is Dr. Raimundo doing to free Angel Escobar?
Now look, there are several possibilities. Together with the judge, through the attorney's office, we have issued a habeas corpus. We went with the lady, didn't we?
I haven't been to the barracks, only to the military intelligence.
We went to the investigating police and to the general police. We went to the security police and the army to make inquiries. They told us he wasn't there. After that, the judge heard the case. A quick, brief process. When we didn't find him, the judge filed the case away, and there is no judgment against the authorities.
Does he think that now, after 6 weeks, Senor Angel will be found alive?
At any moment, he might reappear. It is possible, because others who have disappeared have reappeared.
That would be so good.
The public prosecutor ignored the new evidence and refuses to reopen the case. For Felicita, all official channels are now blocked. There is no legal remedy for Felicita, for the prosecutor is under the direct control of the men she has asked him to investigate, the military. In the case of Angel's disappearance, there is a key witness. Rufino Castellano was the man to whom Angel called when he was marched across the bridge. But he's too terrified to talk, and the prosecutor knows it.
But he says they weren't military, but civilians.
What precisely did you see?
Well, I saw nothing. It was just that my name was called out.
The disappeared called out your name.
Nothing else.
Was he with other people?
People were crossing all round. He was with people.
And did you answer him?
It was he that answered me. We didn't have a conversation.
He says they didn't talk.
We weren't allowed to. That's the point.
They were civilian, not military.
I accuse nobody because I don't know. That's my last word. We're here on the street. People are looking at me. Who'll protect me? We must not be seen together.
Because it's dangerous?
Of course.
Now look here. There have been threats to some lawyers, authorities. I have been threatened on the telephone. They said they were from the shining path. That's what they said on the phone.
So you're admitting that it's impossible to administer the law and stay alive?
That is so.
The man who runs Juan Cavalica is the political military commander, Colonel Paz Cadenas. In line with government policy, he denies using the weapon of disappearance to control the community.
With reference to the department of Juan Cavalica, it is in effect a peaceful situation. This year, nothing has been heard about disappearances or kidnappings. It is a big mistake to speak about disappearances as if they are a problem in this country. Perhaps there are people who have an interest in putting down those of us who are fighting this sort of war.
You say there have been no disappearances, but we would like to raise the case of Angel Escobar, a human rights worker in this town, who it's believed was recently seized by the army, in effect disappeared, of whom nothing has been heard for 6 weeks.
With reference to Senor Escobar, I found out, all the forces of law and order only found out about it through the newspapers. Here we get the papers a day late, which isn't too bad, and that's where we read about the case of Senor Escobar. We were consulted, we were asked questions in verbal and written form, and we made inquiries within the forces of law and order. And I mean we, because I am in charge of them all. And we have no information that this man has been detained by members of the armed forces.
On at least one point, Paz is lying. He says he first heard of the disappearance of Angel Escobar in the papers, where it was announced on March the 6th. In fact, Paz was already denying responsibility 5 days earlier.
I have no idea where he might be, no idea where Senor Escobar could be.
A final resort for someone in Felicita's position is the Catholic Church. The Pope's man in Huancavelica stands out as a contrast to his flock because he's a European. How could Bishop Dermot Malloy be of assistance?
Well, the first thing is we pray. We pray. We are praying. We're teaching. I firmly believe that that even when times are difficult, God is with us always, and that in times of persecution, the church grows. Now, I have my military here. They're not saints, but they do come to Mass. They come to adore our Lord in the Blessed Sacrament. Some of them are very, very fine men. They admit there have been some terrible abuses on their part. Where would Huancavelica be if these military people, men, were not here? At least they're protecting a lot of from us from in these days of civil war.
This is home. We're so poor. We still have no roof there. It's under construction. We've been abandoned.
Now that he's not here with us, we are very sad.
It was worse before. My daughter was crying every day, falling ill, sick and going to bed. She's been better because she's been distracted by the travelling. I don't know what will happen to my children now. They've been crying every day. They're sick.
I feel sad without him because I was always with him. Now that he is gone, I don't know how we will live without him.
She has taken it worse than any of us. She was with her father all the time. She went to his office every day. Now, it has hit her worse than ever. I must work harder. I will have to for my children's sake.
I will have to be strong because my mama has to work and we are going to help her. We still hope my papa will reappear alive. They took him away alive. We want him back alive.
The future for Angel's family may be the poverty of life in a Lima shantytown. For thousands of Peruvians have fled here from the mountains, victims of the country's dirty war. Soon more will arrive to live in huts made of bamboo matting. Zenaida Fernandez was one such, but she is fighting back. Zenaida now heads an organization which helps house and feed the families of the disappeared.
Almost all of us are from the emergency zones. We are displaced persons or refugees in our own country. But this doesn't mean we're going to lie down and cry. We have to carry on demanding freedom for our relatives who have been disappeared. Justice is out of order. It doesn't work. All the cases where there is conclusive evidence come under military control, and the case is just filed away. In spite of all this, we continue to believe that they are confined somewhere alive, and we want to rescue them alive, in the same way that they were taken alive. We have come to Lima for the sole purpose of looking for our loved ones, and because we have been threatened. So it is for our own safety that we are in this desert, where there is no river, and nowhere to grow maize or potatoes to live on. We try to make a living selling lemons, chicha, anything, in order for us and our children to survive.
Felicita's fate may be to follow the destiny of Rosa Hernando. Like Felicita, Rosa lived in an Andean town until her husband was disappeared. She lost 15 members of her family, including her 3 sons who were taken away in an army helicopter. She was left all alone and was too frightened to stay. Now she's on the streets of Lima selling chicha, a soft drink she makes every day. For women like Rosa Hernando, all that lies ahead is the pauper's burial ground. In Huancavelica without Angel, Felicita and her family are rapidly becoming destitute. Since Angel, up to 200 more disappearances have taken place. After several months without news, Angel is almost certainly dead. But Belza clings on to the hope that one day he will reappear alive.
The daughter of Angel Escobar Jurado still missing tonight, one of 10,000 Peruvians spirited away without a single soldier being charged. Newly elected President Fujimori has pledged to improve his country's record on human rights. But at the same time, he has appointed 2 generals and an admiral to his cabinet, and the disappearances continue. Until next month, good night.